So we were just talking about what we're going to talk about, which
Right.
is the conference and what we're excited about here.
From DataStax, this is the Distributed Data Show.
Yeah.
And I want to know specifically what you're excited to hear about and see right now here at the conference.
Yeah, it's pretty great. I've been at DataStax for 5 years, been to a couple of these shows. And I think the thing that really resonated with me, what Billy was talking about making things easy, was the stuff that really got me going. Yeah, I mean, that's been an area where we've been trying to do in a lot of different ways, but really putting it front and center.
Yeah.
So I started at DataStax 5 years ago, no Cassandra experience.
None.
Yeah, none. No.
Like from just zero. Like you had to pick up the book and get started.
Yeah, man, I went through I got hired and went like, let me go take the online training, and it was not as good as this new version of it is great.
The stuff
now.
we got now at DataStax Academy.
Absolutely. But it was raw, and I kind of went and stumbled my way and I'm an ask a lot of questions guy.
Yeah.
Too many sometimes. But I had distributed computing background, so I kind of understood.
It's a good basis to start from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And from that way, I was like, oh, all right, these things kind of make sense, and you're solving some of these classic problems in particular ways.
Right.
But it did feel weird and awkward. I mean, the first time I got here to do something, I was like, I have to use this Hector thing, and what is thrift, and can't we do better? And then CQL came along, and I was like, okay, now we're getting closer to like consumable. But there were a handful of things that still, I think, always been a problem. I've been anybody who's known some of the stuff I've done, and I don't know why they would, bulk loading.
Well, you're famous, man.
Okay.
You know, everybody's watching your repos. They know what's up. They look at that commit log, and they're like, oh, he's back at it again.
You're very flattering. The bulk loading, I had a bulk loader project that I did a while ago because, again, it was why is loading data a challenge, right? And it was funny at first. It was sort of like, well, you'd write your own program every time you needed to load data, and I was like, well, that's not what people do. You're making it hard right out of the gate,
time.
right? So I focused on that, and it kind of became its own repo. That actually was a repo that became pretty followed, Cassandra Loader. And then you just
called it Cassandra.
Cassandra Loader. I know.
I was
gonna come up with something better.
No confusion there.
Well, I'll tell you, it gets one better. Through my path at DataStax, I ended up in product management.
Okay.
And we finally decided to do a formal DataStax tool.
Cool.
I got to name that. Naming is hard.
So what is that name?
DS Bulk.
DS Bulk.
Yeah, there were a lot of other worse names. That one's
It's not entirely confusing.
No, it's pretty basic. It's
Someone
also
might not know what the DS means.
It's only 6 characters. I liked that. Short, easy to type.
Yeah. Stands for Database Systems Loader.
No,
right?
DataStax bulk loading, and it does loading and unloading. Right.
Yeah.
So sometimes you need to put a bunch of data in. Sometimes you need to take a bunch of data out.
Right.
Sometimes you take that data out to then put it in somewhere else.
Yeah.
And there's a whole set of stuff there. So the engineering team that I got to work with a whole new engineering team, the drivers team at DataStax. Hadn't really worked with them before. Awesome group, really,
Very cool.
Proactive, asking the right questions, developer mindset, right? These people have to use this thing. And we got to push that into a bulk loading tool, went out about a year ago, actually.
Oh, okay.
A little bit of enablement, it's been out there. I started a blog series of really how-tos. We're about halfway through it.
Started.
Yeah, so there's 3 of them out already, and I think 3 more to come.
Oh, okay.
Basics of how-tos. You want to load it like normal, this is what it does out of the gate. You want to change the delimiter, you use this command. You want to change the date format, you use that command. And then we'll get into unloading, and there's actually a counting capability, which sounds really weird, but a lot of times when you load data, there's I loaded the data, did it load?
Oh,
so I want to do a little count. Yeah. And one of the things that I learned when I was starting out was really, sometimes you got the primary key wrong. And so you would have missed a part of the primary key.
Oh yeah.
And so you're doing overwrites when you thought you were doing inserts. You're I loaded 1 million records and only 100,000 are in there.
Right, because you just basically upserted over them or whatever. Yeah.
So those little things of it's really, I made a tool set to overcome the fact that I'm not very smart. It's really, but that's one
of the best reasons to build a tool set. When you have a little gap in something, you're like, I got to get this straightened out. I'm going to automate it.
Right. So. And I was seeing it now that I'm back. So now my latest job is on the pre-sale side, out working with some of the bigger customers.
Oh, okay.
And some of them are picking it up and starting from scratch.
Oh, very cool.
And you're seeing, we have a tool for that because I stepped in that. Yep, we got a tool for that because Adron stepped in that one a while back. And
yeah,
that
happens.
That softening those edges to me is one of the things I'm really excited about from the keynote. The other thing I'll just make a mention of that I've gotten involved in or working with is Spring, the whole Spring framework.
Oh yeah,
as well.
Good old Java.
Yeah, and I'm much more of a back-end person. I hadn't really dealt with interfaces and web pages, but Spring Boot, a lot of stuff you get to have for you.
Yeah.
But how do you use it good and right, and how do you know, I don't do that part though. And playing with that and seeing our investment and trying to look in that area. But there was some really interesting stuff that was like reusable, like you're repetitive. And played a little bit around with trying to make like REST APIs for tables.
Oh, okay.
Just a little, it was an experiment of how do I do this, but a customer was trying to do it also. And it felt very formulaic.
Yeah.
So I actually wrote.
It gets to be that way after
it
a while.
does. It's very boilerplate, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's another part is if you're asking people to do stuff, then you have to hope they're doing all the best practices.
Yeah.
But if you can build like a tool, you can bake in the best practices.
Right. True.
And that's another area of like, the driver, the most recent version of the driver is taking best practices and making those the defaults, which is really nice. But I did make a project I had a little fun with over a long weekend.
To make sure that the standards are there and everything.
Yeah. So the project I did over the weekend was, a couple of weekends ago, was making a program that would build a REST API for a table. So connect,
that's cool.
Build a Java project that is the REST API. Of course,
and it's out there for people to use.
It is out there.
On the GitHubs,
it's on,
right?
Yep. So Brian M. Hess is my GitHub user. The project.
Remember that. Go check it out.
The project is Ambien because it gives you REST.
Oh.
Which is the best dad joke I could come up with.
It's like, it's nap time.
Exactly.
Yeah, you get done, it's nice, standards based, and nap time.
Yeah, but you end up with
cool.
like, here's a project and you can customize it from there. The hope was I'll get you 80% of the way there.
That's good.
And I think that's the thing, right? Soften the edges. So I'm charged up about that kind of stuff. It's been an area I haven't spent a ton of time directly working on, but when I was in product management for analytics, we came out with Always On SQL, which was a way to make it easier for SQL people to use data stacks. We did some stuff with DSCFS. I worked with the partner team before that, making other tools work with. Everything is sort of, just make it a little easier.
Yeah.
That's fun.
That's one of the big things that, besides the obvious massiveness of Constellation.
Yeah.
In, I guess, literal and metaphorical terms there.
Yeah.
Just the ease of being able to get a cluster going in that system is huge.
Absolutely.
It takes out so much, all these steps in the middle.
Yep.
And gets me from, hey, I want to build this app. Cool, click, boom. All right, now I'm writing the app.
Right.
Instead of, oh wait, let me think about where I need to put the thing. I need how many nodes? What do I need to do? And you have to stop and go back a few steps usually when you want to make sure you're going to put it together right. And with this, you're like, oh, I can get started, pick how many nodes, do whatever I need to do there, and you can even kind of change, resize, or whatever as needed. So that's really beautiful.
I thought that was great. I participated in the boot camp. Well, I was not taking it. I was helping people in it.
Right.
Yesterday that we did here, we had 300 people who were able to an hour in or an hour and a half in, they were actually doing the coding part. No installing, no debugging of what did I get my config wrong? They'd hit a button, and then the next part is, okay, now it's up.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how you use it. We had a whole, stubs of things going so they could have a starting point.
Right.
But all those other tools of Constellation takes out getting the admin part, and now let's go focus on the rest of it. And that to me, I think it's all
really
awesome.
cool to see. Like I always try to think about whenever I do anything, like what are other people's experiences going to be when they do this, and to see in that big class with like 300 people hacking at that, figuring it out, and seeing them actually make headway, and not fall into other little stumbles here and there, and just be able to get to that code was a really awesome thing to me. It really excites me to see that, because then I know, one, like my own assumptions about it are solid and on point, and I know that I can say, hey, go check this out to someone else, and I know that they're going to go check it out and get the specific, nice, simplified experience.
Yeah, and, it's funny.
That's really good.
And then you can start getting into let's actually work on your business problem.
Yeah.
Right? Forget about the infrastructure part. We actually get to what the awesome thing you're about to build, because databases are interesting and useful to those of us who are in that space. But
Right.
most
Just
people
like-
want to get to like actually doing something.
Right. And I'm definitely one of those people that I love to get in there and be like, all right, I got this container and I'm doing this Kubernetes deployment, and I got this huge thing out here, and I got the database over here, and this thing, all these pieces going on. I love doing that. But at the end of the day, when a customer comes to me and says, hey, we need to figure out this, this, and this, can you make that happen? I
Right.
go, yes, and I don't want to think about any of that anymore.
Yeah.
I want to get right into the problem space.
So in product management, there was Kubernetes and Docker were big and coming up as things that we as a product company needed to think about. And I was like, I'm going to let others in my product management team think about it.
Yeah.
I want to think about what we deploy, what are that tools, what are they going to use?
Right.
And so to your point, like I love that you're interested in the Docker and the Kubernetes and everything, and that's super useful.
Yeah.
And it gets out of you doing that allows me to turn around with customer and be like, let's talk
Exactly.
about your data model. What are you trying to do? How should this
Right.
kind of fit in? What, oh, that's a search problem. We should pull that in. Let's
Yeah.
have that conversation. And so to me, the whole let's get to the real stuff
Yeah.
is to me the fun part. But it
Yeah,
goes with
same.
a lot of smart, purposeful thinking about all the other stuff too.
Yeah.
So I don't want to belittle the
Right.
amount of work that just
Yeah,
got
do
done
that,
there.
Do that infrastructure stuff. I need this now.
Yeah.
It's
And
like,
now let's get to it, so.
Right. So cool.
Awesome.
Well, awesome.
I'll
Good
be
talking
around.
to you. I'll be around too. So
Awesome.
if you're here, say hi. If you're not, go check out his repos.
Yeah.
And keep following the stream.